I got the papers about the divorce by email while I was still in the desert. 13 years of being married ended in a PDF file. My name is Nathan, and I am 42 years old. I was a staff sergeant with the 82nd Airborne. I had been in Kandahar for 4 months when Becky decided she was done waiting. The subject of the email said, "Let's be adults about this." The email itself was only 3 sentences long. She had already filed the papers. She had already taken all the money out of our shared bank account. She had already moved her new boyfriend, Jeremy, into our house in Spokane. I read the email 2 times. Then I closed my laptop. I took a shower in the shared bathroom. I got dressed for my work shift. I didn't say anything to anyone. When I got back to my bed that night, I replied with one word, "Understood." That was it. No fighting. No asking, no threats. Wilson, the guy who slept next to me, saw that something was wrong. "You okay, man?" he asked while still reading his book. "Yeah," I said, "just some stuff back home." He nodded, and that was it. Guys in the military know when to leave things alone. The truth is, I wasn't surprised. 6 months before I left, things changed. Small things. Becky stopped asking about my day. She started working late at the dentist's office, answering phones. She started going to the gym 3 times a week, but she never seemed to sweat. New clothes, new friends I never met, new passwords on her phone. I didn't ask her about it. I didn't start checking her messages or following her. That's not who I am, but I wasn't blind either. So I made some quiet moves myself. Nothing big, just being careful. I put important papers in a storage place across town. My birth certificate, marriage license, the house paper with only my name on it because of the VA loan, military benefits papers. I also moved my grandpa's watch and my mom's old silver to that same place. I got the papers about the divorce by email while I was still in the desert. 13 years of being married ended in a PDF file. My name is Nathan, and I am 42 years old. I was a staff sergeant with the 82nd Airborne. I had been in Kandahar for 4 months when Becky decided she was done waiting. The subject of the email said, "Let's be adults about this." The email itself was only 3 sentences long. She had already filed the papers. She had already taken all the money out of our shared bank account. She had already moved her new boyfriend, Jeremy, into our house in Spokane. I read the email 2 times. Then I closed my laptop. I took a shower in the shared bathroom. I got dressed for my work shift. I didn't say anything to anyone. When I got back to my bed that night, I replied with one word, "Understood." That was it. No fighting. No asking, no threats. Wilson, the guy who slept next to me, saw that something was wrong. "You okay, man?" he asked while still reading his book. "Yeah," I said, "just some stuff back home." He nodded, and that was it. Guys in the military know when to leave things alone. The truth is, I wasn't surprised. 6 months before I left, things changed. Small things. Becky stopped asking about my day. She started working late at the dentist's office, answering phones. She started going to the gym 3 times a week, but she never seemed to sweat. New clothes, new friends I never met, new passwords on her phone. I didn't ask her about it. I didn't start checking her messages or following her. That's not who I am, but I wasn't blind either. So I made some quiet moves myself. Nothing big, just being careful. I put important papers in a storage place across town. My birth certificate, marriage license, the house paper with only my name on it because of the VA loan, military benefits papers. I also moved my grandpa's watch and my mom's old silver to that same place. Things that mattered to me. I also opened a new bank account at a different bank and started putting some of my paychecks there. Not enough for her to notice, but enough so I wouldn't have nothing if things went bad. The night before I left, she hugged me at the airport and said, "Stay safe, okay?" Her eyes were dry, like she was saying goodbye to a coworker, not a husband going to war. I should have known then, but part of me still hoped I was wrong. I wasn't wrong. What she didn't know was that I had prepared for this moment. And what she didn't understand was that I never start fights, but I do finish them. I met Becky at a friend's barbecue in 2010. I was home between tours, staying with my buddy Jason in Spokane. She was finishing nursing school, but ended up working as an admin at a dental office instead. "Less stress," she said. We got married 8 months later. Becky used to say she was proud of my service, but she never really understood it. Her dad was a bank manager, her brother a pharmacist. No one in her family was in the military. She would ask when I was going to get a real job, not knowing that after 15 years, the Army was my career, not just a job I was doing for a while. We bought our house in 2014. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. 3 bedrooms, small yard, quiet neighborhood. My name was the only one on the mortgage because the VA loan was in my name. But I added her to the deed because that's what married people do, share things. My dad died a year after we got married. Heart attack while shoveling snow. My mom passed away 3 years later from lung cancer, even though she never smoked. They left me some money, not a lot, but enough that Becky and I could pay off her student loans and still have some extra. I went on 4 deployments during our marriage. Iraq twice, Afghanistan twice. Each time I came home, Becky seemed a little more distant, a little more restless, like she was acting a part she had outgrown. I didn't sign up to be a military wife, she told me once after I mentioned maybe staying in the Army for another 4 years. I'm tired of being alone all the time. I understood that. I did. But the Army was the only place I ever felt like I truly belonged. I was good at my job. People depended on me. In 2019, things started changing. Small stuff at first. Becky got annoyed when I called during her girls' nights. She started talking about how her friend Melissa had divorced her husband and was living her best life now. She started making comments about how we didn't really have anything in common anymore. I suggested counseling. She said we were fine, just going through a phase. Then came the late nights at work, the weekends away with friends I'd never met, the new clothes, the gym memberships she rarely used. I should have asked her what was going on, but that's not how I handle things. Never have. My dad taught me to think before I speak, to be sure before I act. So I watched and I prepared quietly because my gut feeling told me something was coming. And in this life, you learn to trust your gut. 2 weeks after getting the divorce email, I was sitting in the mess hall when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from our bank app. Another withdrawal. $88,500. Almost everything that was left. I put my fork down and opened the app. The balance in our shared account was down to $22. Our savings, $47,000 we had built up over years, was gone completely. It had been moved to an account I didn't know. Murphy, one of the guys from my unit, looked over. Bad news. I locked my phone. Nah, just some account stuff. That night, I called our bank from the base phone center. It turned out Becky had been moving money for weeks. Small amounts at first, then bigger ones. The big transfers started the day after I left. I hung up the phone and stood in the hallway for a long time, watching guys laughing, calling their kids, their wives, their parents. Normal life happening all around me while mine was falling apart. That's when Wilson found me. Heard from Alvarez that you looked like you'd seen a ghost at dinner, he said. What's up? I don't usually share personal stuff, but Wilson had helped me out of a bad situation in Kandahar once. I trusted him. My wife emptied our accounts and moved her boyfriend into our house, I said. Sent divorce papers while I was on patrol last week. Wilson didn't say the usual, I'm sorry, or that's rough, or you'll find someone better. He just asked, what's your plan? Not sure yet, I said. He nodded. Let me know if you need anything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I took out my laptop and logged into our home security system, something Becky probably forgot I could access from far away. The camera showed a strange truck in our driveway, a man I had never seen before walking our dog, using my coffee mug, wearing my Seahawk sweatshirt. And there was Becky, laughing in the kitchen I had fixed up myself during my last leave. Something changed inside me. Not anger exactly. Something colder, clearer. I closed the laptop and took out my phone. I made a list. Called James, Army buddy who became a lawyer. Check the VA loan rules. Contact the Master Sergeant about emergency leave. Review home refinance papers. Something Becky mentioned casually last year. Check the security on my military pension accounts. I didn't feel sad anymore. I didn't even feel angry. I felt focused, like I was planning a mission. This wasn't about feelings now. This was about strategy. At 0500 before my work started, I sent an email to James with the subject, Need legal help discreet and urgent. His reply came an hour later. Call me secure line only. When I hung up from that call, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to threaten. I didn't even need to talk to her right away. I just needed to wait and watch and let her own actions become the trap. 2 months later, I was back in America. I didn't tell Becky I was coming home. Didn't call, didn't text. I just checked into a motel in downtown Spokane under a different name and contacted James. We met at a diner 10 miles outside of town. You look like hell, he said, sliding into the booth. Feel like it too, I replied. James handed me a folder. Everything we had talked about. The house paper, loan papers, bank statements. And this, he said, pulling out another paper, Found something interesting when I was looking into your money. It was a refinance application with my signature on it. Except it wasn't your signature, James said. Not quite. Someone tried to copy it, but missed details. The middle initial was wrong, and the way the letters were written wasn't yours. Becky did this, I asked, even though I already knew the answer. James nodded. 3 months ago, used the money from the house to take out $330,000. Your signature is needed for that, since the VA loan is only in your name. Forge my signature, take out a loan against our house, then empty our accounts and divorce me, I said. Busy woman, James said. It gets better. She listed her boyfriend as a co-applicant. He's got a record, 2 DUIs and a fraud charge from 2019. I took a deep breath. What are my options? Several, James said. But first, you need to decide what you want. I thought about it. I want what's legally mine, and I want her to understand the consequences. James smiled. Then here's what we do. The next day, I drove past our house. Her boyfriend's truck was gone, but Becky's car was in the driveway. I parked down the street and watched for a while. I thought about knocking on the door, talking to her, but that wasn't the plan. Instead, I drove to the bank. I met with the loan officer who had handled the refinance. I showed him my military ID. I showed him my real signature on my driver's license. I showed him the papers with the fake signature. His face turned white. I'll need to report this immediately, he said. Understand, I said. I've already filed a police report. That night, I got a text from Becky. Who have you been talking to at the bank? Jeremy. Said someone was asking questions. I didn't reply. The next day, I went to the county clerk's office. I filed papers saying the refinance was fraud. I made it official that no changes could be made to the property without me being there. 2 days later, Becky called. I let it go to voicemail. Nathan, we need to talk. The bank called about the house. What are you doing? If this is about the divorce, we can talk about it like adults. Like adults. The same words from her email. I still didn't reply. James called that afternoon. They froze the refinance money. And there's more. Your wife's boyfriend has been driving your truck, right? The one that's in your name? Yeah, he got pulled over this morning for driving with a suspended license from those DUIs. They took the truck. Good, I said. He also had some interesting things in the truck. Prescription pads from the dental office where Becky works. They weren't blank. I closed my eyes. She's been stealing prescription pads. Looks that way. The police are investigating. I hung up and sat on the edge of the motel bed. This was getting bigger than I thought. Part of me wanted to call Becky, warn her old habits. But then I remembered the security camera footage. My house, my dog, my life, given away like it meant nothing. This was the path now. I couldn't turn back. And honestly, I didn't want to. The next morning, I met with the bank's fraud investigator. His name was Thompson, short guy with tired eyes and a coffee stain on his tie. This happens more often than you'd think, he said, putting papers on his desk. Spouse goes away for work. Other spouse sees a chance. What happens now? I asked. We've frozen the money from the fake refinance, but there's a problem. Some of the money is already gone. How much? About half. $14,600. I leaned forward. Where did it go? Thompson hesitated. I'm not supposed to share that information. It's my house. My name was forged. My money was stolen. He nodded slowly, then turned his computer screen toward me. These are the transfers out of the refinance account. I looked at the list. Many transfers to someone named Daniel Spencer, not Jeremy. Someone else I had never heard of. Who's Daniel Spencer? I asked. Thompson shrugged. Not my department, but you should ask your lawyer to subpoena these records. I called James as soon as I left the bank. Daniel Spencer, he repeated. Let me check. An hour later, he called back. Got it. Daniel Spencer is a real estate agent. He specializes in quick sales, cash deals. She was planning to sell our house, I said. The realization hit me hard. Looks that way. The deposits were probably earnest money to get him started on a listing. But here's where it gets interesting. Spencer has done business with Jeremy Ryan before. Jeremy Ryan is that your wife's boyfriend? Yes. They've closed 3 deals together in the past 2 years. I sat down on a park bench, trying to understand this. So, this wasn't just Becky leaving me for some guy. This was, what? A planned operation? Maybe. James said carefully. I did some digging into Jeremy Ryan. He has a pattern. He gets involved with women who are getting divorced or whose husbands are away for work. I found 3 cases so far. Each time, the woman's house gets sold for much less than it's worth to one of Spencer's clients. Ryan gets a cut, then he moves on. And Becky, she knew about this? Hard to say. Maybe she's a victim too. Or maybe she's in on it. I rubbed my face. This wasn't just about Becky betraying me anymore. This was something bigger, something planned, and other military families have been hurt. What do we do? I asked. I've already contacted the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, James said. This crosses state lines, involves military people and VA loans. They're interested. That night, I sat in my motel room with a beer, thinking about everything, wondering if Becky had been lying to me our whole marriage, or if she had gotten caught up in Jeremy's plan, wondering if it even mattered. My phone buzzed. Becky again. Nathan, please call me. The bank is saying something about fraud, and Jeremy got arrested for driving your truck. I don't understand what's happening. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, "Who is Daniel Spencer?" 3 dots appeared as she started typing, then stopped, started again, stopped. Finally, "I don't know what you're talking about." $14,600, I wrote. Multiple transfers. House listing. No response for 10 minutes. Then, "It's not what you think." I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning, James called. "FBI wants to meet. They've been investigating Ryan and Spencer for months. You're not the first, but you might be the case that breaks it open." For the first time since getting that divorce email, I felt something close to satisfaction. Not because my marriage was over, but because the truth was finally coming out. I met with the FBI agents at their office in Spokane, Agent Patel and Agent Donovan. They recorded what I said and took copies of all the papers James and I had gathered. "Your case helps show a pattern," Agent Patel explained. "It shows they planned it and worked together. It makes it a conspiracy, not just separate events." "What about Becky?" I asked. "My wife, ex-wife." The agents looked at each other. "We're still figuring out how much she was involved," Donovan said carefully. "Did she ever mention money problems?" "Pressure to sell the house." I thought back. She kept saying we were house poor, that we should get a smaller house. I didn't see why. We could afford the payments on my salary. Patel wrote something down. "When did that start?" "About 6 months ago," I remembered, "around the time she must have met Jeremy." "And the refinance?" Donovan asked. "She never talked to me about it. She forged my signature while I was away." They asked more questions, took more notes. When we were done, Patel gave me her card. "We'll be in touch. In the meantime, don't talk to your wife or Ryan. We need to build this case carefully." I nodded. I understood. That evening, I drove to our neighborhood again. I parked down the street from our house. Jeremy's truck was back. He must have gotten it out of the impound lot. Becky's car was gone. My phone buzzed. Text from Becky. "We need to talk in person. Meet me at Riverfront Park tomorrow." I showed the text to James over breakfast the next day. "Don't go," he advised. "Nothing good can come from talking to her right now." "I won't," I said, "but I want to know what she's doing today while she thinks I'm meeting her." We drove to our house at 9:30 a.m. We parked across the street. At 9:45, Becky came out and got in her car and drove away, heading toward Riverfront Park. "Now what?" James asked. "Now we wait," I said. 20 minutes later, a car pulled up. It had a real estate agent's logo on the door. Daniel Spencer. Jeremy came out to greet him. They talked in the driveway, then went inside. "Should we follow them?" James asked. I shook my head. "No need. I installed security cameras last year, inside and outside. They save the videos online." James smiled. "You didn't mention that before." "Never came up," I said, taking out my phone. I opened the security app and turned the screen so James could see. Spencer and Jeremy were in our living room. Spencer was taking pictures. Jeremy was pointing at things in the house. I turned up the sound. "Should list by the end of the week," Spencer was saying. "How about a buyer who's already interested? Cash offer, as usual." "How much?" Jeremy asked. $420. We list at $470. They offer $420. Everyone's happy. "What about the husband?" Becky said from somewhere else in the house. "He's causing trouble." Spencer waved his hand. "Military guys are all the same. They make noise, but they have deployment responsibilities. He'll take a settlement to make it go away." I turned to James. "You getting this?" He was already recording the video on his phone, every word. I sent the security camera access to Agent Patel with a short message. "Happening now." 30 minutes later, our street was full of FBI cars. I watched from down the street as agents led Spencer and Jeremy out in handcuffs. My phone rang. Agent Patel. "Got them on tape talking about the fraud plan," she said, "plus conspiracy, wire fraud, and trying to sell property by lying. We're going to need a formal statement from you, of course." "Of course," I said. "And Mr. Briggs, your wife just arrived. She's upset." I looked down the street. Becky was standing on our lawn, her hands over her mouth, watching as FBI agents carried boxes of papers from our house. "What happens to her?" I asked. "That depends," Patel said, "on what she knew and on what you want." I watched Becky for a long moment. 13 years of marriage. Good years at the start, before whatever this had become. "I just want what's right," I said finally. The federal case moved quickly. Jeremy and Spencer both pleaded guilty. They both said the other one was more involved, and they named other people in what turned out to be a plan that went across 3 states and targeted military families. Becky said she didn't know anything about the bigger plan. She said Jeremy had made her believe I was hiding money and planning to leave her with nothing. She said the refinance was his idea, and she just went along with it. Maybe that was true, maybe not. Either way, she agreed to a settlement. She would pay back all the stolen money. She would give up any claim to the house or my military pension. And she signed a paper saying she forged my signature. In exchange, I didn't press charges. The divorce was final 6 months after that email from Kandahar. No fault, a clean break, all things considered. On the day the last papers were signed, I got a call from Agent Patel. Jeremy Ryan was sentenced today. 8 years for fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft. Spencer got 12. Thought you want to know. Thank you, I said. There's something else, she added. We found evidence they've done this to 11 other military families. Your case helped us see the pattern. Those families might get their money back because of you. After we hung up, I sat on the porch of my rented apartment, watching the sunset, thinking about those other families, other men who went away to serve, thinking their homes and marriages were safe, only to come back to nothing. I hadn't planned on being the one to stop Jeremy and Spencer's operation. I just wanted what was mine. But sometimes things work out in ways you don't expect. My phone buzzed. Text from Becky. I never meant for things to end this way. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. A year later, I sold the house. I couldn't stand to live there anymore. Too many memories, too much betrayal in those walls. I used the money to buy a small cabin outside of Missoula, Montana. 2 bedrooms, 10 acres of land, a creek behind it. No neighbors for miles. I took early retirement from the Army. 20 years was enough. I had given enough. I got a dog, a German Shepherd named Scout. I started doing carpentry work for people nearby. Nothing fancy, but it kept my hands busy and paid the bills. My military pension covered the rest. Sometimes I thought about Becky, wondering where she ended up. James heard she had moved back to her hometown in Oregon, working at another dental office. Starting over, I guess. I didn't hate her anymore. Didn't feel much of anything about her, to be honest. She had made her choices, and so had I. One evening, I got a letter from a woman in Fort Worth. Her husband was in the Navy, deployed when Jeremy and Spencer tried their scheme on her family. The FBI had given her my name as part of the case. You don't know me, she wrote, but you saved our home. Thank you. You were fighting back when it would have been easier to just walk away. I read it twice, then pinned it to my refrigerator. Some days, when the silence got too loud or the memories too sharp, I'd look at that letter and remember that something good had come from all of it. Last I heard, Jeremy was still in prison. Spencer too. The system worked for once. As for me, I was finding my way forward one quiet day at a time, building something new, something that couldn't be stolen or forged or betrayed. Something that was just mine.